So we've called this talk From Products to Services, which kind of sums up a lot of the thoughts we had around starting this project, and we'll go into that in a bit. I'm just going to introduce a little bit and tell you about PDR and where I'm from, because although we do service design, we're not an agency. And then Andy's going to introduce Nuaire, which is a local business. It's a Welsh company. It's one of what the Welsh government calls an anchor company. So they're regionally very, very important because of the number of people they employ, where they employ those people, and the kind of export and import they do. Cool. So there are our contact details. So we'd love to hear from you, any feedback and thoughts that you have. And this is an acronym which, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't heard the whole conference. Has anyone else heard SME? No? No? Okay, so we're going to, oh, there's one, are you scratching your head? Or? Okay, so we're going to talk to you about being an SME and what service design means to an SME. So by SME, we mean small to medium-sized enterprise, and Nuaire at the top end of the spectrum based on the European definition of an SME, of being under £50 million turnover. And SMEs are really important. They're 59% of private sector employment in the UK is with SMEs. So if SMEs are performing well, they're employing people, they're paying tax, they're contributing towards a good, solid, strong economy, then that's great for everyone. So it's really important. I'm imagining that a lot of you, particularly from design agencies here as well, will be SME businesses, and actually a lot of the companies that are here as well will be. Obviously yesterday a lot of our speakers were from much bigger companies. And it's good to get that perspective as well, because we serve those companies, or they're part of our supply chain, or they're our customers, or maybe we're even involved in working within them. So PDR is we say that we're a world-class research unit based at Cardiff Met University. So who came to our party? Show of hands, yeah, that's cool. Okay, nice, lovely. So I hope you had a nice time, but it was our opportunity just to sort of like talk about a little bit about the kind of work we do, because it's quite varied. Basically, we deliver commercial projects, we deliver funded programs, and we do this across 8 cutting-edge research groups, which are design management, service design. There's a new name for the next, so it's surgical and prosthetic design, advanced manufacture, eco-design, user-centered design, new product design, and innovation policy. But today we're just going to be talking about service design. So 3 years ago we started a program which was all about helping SMEs engage with service design, raising awareness across Wales, and particularly within the manufacturing sector. So the manufacturing sector here has been doing quite nicely. There's a lot of pretty strong companies. There's also companies like GE, there's Thales, and there are other big manufacturers as well. There's also a very large defence and aviation industry here. So if we can support that obviously has a massive knock-on effect on the supply chain as well, and the kind of other SMEs that sit around those businesses. And so we set up this program, which we were very proud of, and we've had some fantastic successes in terms of economic impact within companies. But today we're going to talk to you about how we work with Nuaire to take £50 fans to £1,000 installs. So instead of just providing as you can see there's in the background, the kind of fan you might see in the toilet in a public convenience, or perhaps in your bathroom, which is a very cheap, fairly commoditized product, to £1,000 install. We're actually providing a really good, valuable service to companies. And so it's a story about service design in a product-focused SME manufacturing business. I'm just going to hand over to Andy now. He's going to talk you through a couple more bits and introduce you to Nuaire.
Thank you. Right, Nuaire, we're a private equity-based company. It's been private since about 2004, but it's got its heritage back in a company in London. It's moved to Wales in 1973, so it's a big established manufacturer, about £50 million turnover, and a big local employer. So when PDR engaged with us in terms of trying to work on services, we were quite keen to be involved, but at first it was important to find out what the value is for us straight away. One thing to state is I'm not a designer, I'm not a service designer, I'm a marketer and a business person. So the first time people come to me and start talking about service design, the first question back is, how much money? So we make bathroom fans. So next time you go to the toilets around here, you look up, you see Nuaire fans. We do everything from the smallest one through to ones in offices and stadia, through to really big fans that go on to marine, offshore, you name it. So our manufacturing facilities from the very smallest to the very biggest. But we do product design. We're a product design company. So we've got tons and tons of engineers all working on stage gate systems. They all work on product design principles. They have very detailed procedures to follow. And so when you ask the question, what is service design? It's quite hard for the general manufacturing industry to grasp this. I think product design, yeah, that's fine. You take a product, do some R&D work on it, go through feasibility, business cases, look at the refining of the product, do some more financials, tool it up, develop it, send it into the market. What point through that stage does anybody mention the word service? So, where's our R&D team for services? Do we have a bunch of 3 or 4 different people that sit in a room and start thinking, whenever we develop a product, what's the service aspect to this as well? In fact, it's quite interesting. You ask most people you know in manufacturing, what do they consider service to be? When you say the word service, what comes to their brain? I think importantly for us, it's about getting manufacturing to look at where you can gain market share. Okay, you can develop products, you can develop the next generation of products, you can increase the amount of spend per building, for example. But what you really need to look then is how the product's used, what are the implications of the product in terms of when someone's installing it, and how can you improve that further down the line. One of the things we made a big decision not to do was to do the installation ourselves. It's very easy for product companies to say, we'll do the products, then we'll install it. That's our service. And we'll offer a set fee for the installation. It wouldn't be that profitable for us. So we need to work out how we then do services that aren't linked that way. So what is the traditional view of service? People say, oh, it's a customer service call centre. That's the 300 people we employ in the call centre at Caerphilly to answer the technical issues on the phone. Or maybe it's after sales. Maybe when a product has stopped or the bathroom fan's making a little bit of noise, they call service to get it fixed. But what we're trying to explain here is that's the wrong description of the word service, and people need to start thinking about customer experience. What we're really talking about, this guy, he's loving his van there, he's giving it a bit of a cuddle. Paul likes the photo. The business to us is about £3 million for just metal boxes. That's what we do, metal boxes. But what happens if you don't focus on service is you put all that business at risk. Somebody else is going to offer something else in front of you that's not a product, it's something to make people's life easier that's going to take away your market share. And I think it's very important as manufacturers not to just look at product. So we're saying, how do you get services into this? You need to be a bit innovative. Okay, so Paul did some research for us, and he'll go through now what exactly the team at PDR did.
Cheers. So working with Andy was really good. I invited Andy along today because I think Nuaire are a good example of some of the companies we work with and some of the work we did. And some of it is fairly basic. We're working with SMEs that don't have the resources or capability and certainly don't have the kind of financial resources to buy in consultancy as well. So service design isn't something that's on their radar as something that they can just go, yep, let's give that a go, let's run a small project and things like that. So first of all, it was just about how are Nuaire presenting themselves. So if you look at the old Nuaire website and start to look at some of the way that they spoke about their products and the way they spoke about their business, you started to notice certain things. So basically, Nuaire are very proud of their heritage. They're a very proud engineering company, and that's how they presented themselves. They focused purely on the innovation that they were able to deliver through the products, and every year that would improve. There'd be a new product come out. And obviously that was a successful business model for them, and they've managed to continue to grow even in a recession. However, when you start to look at some of their customers, they started to address the issue that Andy mentioned there about if it's not really profitable for us to be installing kit, how can we make it so that we're much more friendly to deal with? How can we make it so that we're helping our customers to get themselves up and running with our kit? And so a manufacturing business that's sort of starting to go out in that way, well, where do you start? An obvious thing is on the website, and this was more of a kind of case in point, really. But then when you start to look at sort of why they're talking that way, so Ventaxia is a company based near Gatwick, which is Nuaire's, one of Nuaire's largest competitors. But it was interesting to see the comparison because actually Nuaire's products in terms of the innovation within them was superior, and actually it was interesting to see how they might reposition themselves. So Nuaire were talking about eliminating risk. So buy their product and you will eliminate any risk. They had innovative products, and it was right first time and every time, and the lowest total installed cost. So there's a mixture of messages there, but effectively we're talking about the innovation in the product. But when you look at innovation in service, there's obviously a lot more other things which are much more customer focused that they could be saying about. And then when you look across the industry, you start to realize, wow, this industry it's not the most innovative when it comes to services. So we did this audit of every one of Nuaire's competitors, and identified the pink dots identify unique services that company is delivering that no one else isn't. So for the ventilation industry, some of those services are even things like social media support. They might be some sort of service plan. There's only one company offering that. And so a really, really easy, quick win for Nuaire was to start thinking, well, let's just make sure that we're offering the same level of service as everyone else. So there's a level playing field. And actually it made you think, well, we don't need to be that innovative within this industry in order to have some real successes. And I think that's one of the things to bear in mind with an SME, is that actually if the resources aren't necessarily there and the budget isn't necessarily there for kind of large consultancy and things like that, it's what can you do to ensure that you're getting that competitive advantage. And I think for SMEs particularly, competitive advantage is the key thing that service design brings. And so going back to our point about £50 fans to £1,000 installs, if Nuaire continued to talk about their products in the way that they did, they wouldn't be moving up this value chain. And that's the key bit, I think, where service design can come in as a tool to do that. So Andy, without putting words in your mouth, I feel that Andy saw us as some people that could kind of help him along the way and had some methods that he could then use to get there, along with other things as well. And I think that's the thing to bear in mind, that particularly in the manufacturing sector, SME engineering companies and manufacturers are very well versed in improvement methodologies. They receive lots, particularly in Wales, there's a lot of government support for things like Lean and Six Sigma and stuff like that to help improve efficiencies and things. So they're very well versed in that, and they see service design as something that can help them, and it's one of these many options that they have to do innovation and improve what they do. And that's the point where he needs to sort of demonstrate that what are you giving them, and I think we're giving competitive advantage. I just pulled out one quote from the research, so I won't go into lots of stuff. Basically, me and Chris Brooker, who's leading in the Japan room, spent 2 days, thanks Andy, in a BPEC training course. So I'm now a fully qualified ventilation engineer. I've got a certificate and a card. But this is really good, because actually we went along, we turned up, enjoyed the canteen and sat around with the other guys that travelled from all around the country and basically had a chat with them. So we were having breakfast with them whilst Nuaire staff was setting up and things like that. And some of the comments about Nuaire and the business were really interesting, and things that were really easy to action. And there's nothing clever in this. We were basically doing some observation work, but it's not something that the business had even thought about before. So this gave them lots of insights in ways they could perhaps improve the experience of coming into the building, but also the way that the communications were going out about Nuaire, about the services they provided. So things like this are interesting as well. So I've been doing these wrong for years. Something knows what's coming out of the systems I've installed. So these are the kind of, this is an installer. I have to say he's not an employee of Nuaire.
Nothing to do with us.
I did put that on there, to make it clear. And this was the kind of level of understanding about the systems that they were installing. And I think if you're in an industry and you're making products that people are struggling to install properly, that reflects very badly on the business. Because when they go wrong, there's a big badge on the box that says, this was made by you. And the install that's the tricky bit. And so we started to think about like ideas we had for improving that situation. Things like improving the experience for the team that came came onto that course. How can Nuaire make them more interested in their products? And so basically re-engineering them and taking them apart, that's what excited them. So thinking about ways that could integrate into the training program. Things like the showroom, they've got a great showroom. Let's open it up on Saturdays. There's a lot of residential house builders, so the kind of grand designs people, they buy Nuaire products, they install them, energy efficient units. These are the kind of people that want to come down on the weekend and have a look round, and that's not what their competitors are doing. And using augmented reality as well to start to look at how they might help make it easier for their installers when you're stuck in an attic or down a tiny little cupboard trying to fit the kit. Having some tools that would help people understand how to fit it properly would be useful. Cool.
Cheers, thank you. So before we crack on, show of hands, how many service people here have worked with product companies? No, good mix, it's not bad. And how do you find it? I mean, the key thing we found is that service companies working with public sector and service organisations are in one basket, working with product manufacturers is a different animal. So I think the challenge for everybody in this room, and there's a good mix of different types in here, is to try and get your head around how you apply service design in other industries, other situations. Think laterally, think what you've learned. But for us, it was protecting that £3 million. What we've now done, of that 3 million, there was about 2 million which was just product. And we're now selling more than £4 million on developing that product into the next generation and how we do easy installs. But what's really happened is that the sales potential has gone up by 100% by looking at what else we can offer. We do drawing layouts, we do special plans, ancillaries for customers now that tie them into us much longer term. And we're also taking on board some of the small tools that they've used in terms of how we do that internally. How do we bring it into the customer service department? What do the engineers do now looking at services? So what we've really been looking at is we're protecting 3 million, but we're close to £5 million on this product line now. But what it's been doing is taking the information from the customers, looking at how our products are being used. We offer these drawing design packages now free of charge online. A customer can come to us, say I want a particular product for a particular house, and we'll give them a full drawing, a full software system that tells them how to design it. And we've gone into areas like self-build market, and we're now promoting Nuaire as a design centre. The big idea of what's your plan? Show us what you're trying to do with your houses, and we'll show you how to deck it all out, make the best product you can, give you all the ancillaries, and make it really work. But what it means to us as a business, and I go back to the start of the conversation, is it's a business. What do I get out of employing people like PDR to come and work for us? We've gone from a product company to look at services, and then we've gone back around that loop to products, because when we spoke to customers and did the research, we found there were ancillary products, there were other parts that we could tool up, there were other little bits we didn't think about as part of the install, which takes that initial £50 fan to a £500 product to a £1,000 service. So as a business, if we keep investing in looking at this type of work, then it helps both product innovation and bringing services into the business. Okay. Thank you very much.
So we intentionally stopped a bit early there because we thought, as we're talking about SMEs and it's something that hasn't really come up, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on service design within SMEs. And so any questions, any thoughts we'd really like. Hello. If you just wait for a microphone, there'll be a...
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about how it works in terms of working with SME companies on service design projects, in terms of paying for that. Like, how does it work? Because often the projects in service design often are too expensive for small companies. How do you deal with that?
Yes, you all are too expensive. That's just true. The honest answer is we can put value onto things that we see that's tangible. There are initiatives such as KTCs, government systems, to help try and bring in service design into companies. But I think the underlying thing that manufacturers and service people need to get their brain around is what's the value to that company? How do you put value on consultancy or value on stuff that may be speculative to a business quickly? We work on possibly a 2-year payback most, but we want return within a single financial year. So if the project's going to be really big, then we might have to chunk it down. We might have to break down that cost into smaller parts that then show return. So say, for example, a £50,000 consultancy project might have to be in blocks of 5,000 that show return for us. That's the way we approach it.
I think that's the thing. I didn't really explain the sort of the structure of PDR, but like you said, there are various government initiatives which enable you to work with, particularly with SMEs. And I put up the program, the service design program, which was one of those funded by the Welsh government. So there are things out there to support this, because effectively you're helping small businesses grow, and as long as what you're doing is advising and helping them to implement these kind of things, it's a kickstart. And so Andy's someone who would never have even looked at service design really, unless we were going along and talking to him and encouraging him to look more into it. And so Andy's since worked with a local design agency that we've also introduced to service design, who have then partnered up with the business. So I think there is this kind of sales element here, which, like you say, you've got to say, well, are we protecting this £3 million, or are we going to grow that? And we want to see that return on investment. I think that's something we're not that good at as service designers. I don't think we associate that kind of return on investment early on.
I think that's one thing that's very stark for us is, depending on the scale of business you're dealing with, obviously they've got budgets to vary, but you take a manufacturer in anywhere that's just started up their own business, entrepreneurs in this industry, or any industry that start to really get a business off the ground, they are so cost sensitive that you have to show what you're going to offer them is going to be worthwhile. So the initial discussion is around how you can improve the business, but what that means on a financial perspective. I think that's something that's often missed from our side, from pitches and from presentations from various different agencies, is how the financials will play out pretty quickly. Because we can afford a big ticket if the return is measured the same way. If there's a good return, they'll pay it back.
Cool.
Okay, I would like to congratulate on this successful product services systems case.
Thank you.
And I'm Yong-Se Kim from Sungkyunkwan University in Korea. And my question is, when you compare your competitors in terms of what kind of services are provided, and then you have shown the two-dimensional chart on it, but did you have some kind of a specific methodology of classifying different kinds of services? For example, that you look at how much of the co-creation is involved, what kind of values are involved in those services? Did you have some methodology to compare different kinds of services, particularly related to those kind of product-oriented companies' service provision?
It was looked at from a very functional point of view. So what are each of those businesses offering their customers? So we didn't look into the structure much deeper than that, because that is the kind of industry that the construction industry. It's so cost focused. It's any service is seen as an add-on. However, there are markets within that are much more open to receiving different types of services and things, particularly with large businesses that are buying on a regular basis, or sole traders and things like that. So we then went and spoke to those in depth. But in terms of the sort of analysing how those services had been developed, we didn't know.
I think we could. I think as a second stage, we could do another round of our competitors and find out, since we've introduced the services we have, what have they changed? So, for example, we already know that Vent Actua, competitor, now offers on-site services where for a fee, they'll go to the site and look at the first installation. The training course that we offered, we're doing the next generation of that training course, and we offer it free. One of the reasons why we've deliberately done that is to drive the industry for best practice. But we've got other competitors that have seen that as a good idea, and they're charging £500 for people to go on the courses. So there's revenue streams there, but I think the thing to do is to take a snapshot, then see how the services are developing, and maybe after 6 months, a year, look at it again and see what the new opportunities are.
That's great.
Hi there. I guess it's inevitable you always get skeptics about such a kind of initiative within an organisation. What kind of techniques did you use to convince people?
Very, very, very good question. It's like saying, what's the payback on social media for a manufacturer? You have to show financials. I can't emphasise it enough. If you say you're going to do a project and I'm going to get rid of, say, £10,000 in a year but can't show any return, the project won't fly. So the first thing is to show the financials. The next thing is to show the benefit for other elements of the business, like customer service, product innovation, and leading that in there. And once you get a group of people that can start to see the benefits of doing service design, it becomes very much an entrepreneurial part of the business. They can see where value is very, very quickly. So I think initially you're going to get a huge amount of skeptics, but by doing presentations and by Paul coming to the business, from us talking about the program a few times to the senior board and explaining where we're going to try and go to, they could see the added on value. Now, the best thing that I can recommend to people in smaller businesses is don't try and go too big too quick. Try and do small wins, show that you can make it viable, show there's some rolling change there, and then when it becomes financially beneficial, the strapline from £50 fans to £1,000 install is exactly that. You get any sort of investor or any board and say, would you like to move your product offering from £50 to £1,000? The answer is yes. So it's trying to get a group of people that can see the benefit that way. And then practically, you need to make sure that the team you have that are in the business are cross-functional. If you did it just with marketing, for example, or just with sales, and missed out engineering, warranty, after-sales service, it just falls over. So my experience is start to get it up and rolling as an initiative, get a team around you, but then make it pay back fairly quickly. And I think as everybody sees the benefits, they immediately start relating what they've seen from Paul's work to their own part of the business. A really good knock-on from this was one of the customer service people said to me, I could really use some of these tools and techniques in just the customer service area of the business, not manufacturing or product development. Could we have some simple tools? So we've spoken to the design agency that's working with us now, and they've drafted up some templates where they can do various things within their department for improvements and continuous improvements.
All
Anyone
right.
else?
Whoa.
No?
Maybe one more
Okay.
question? No?
Great.
All
Thank you very
right.
much.
No.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.